Alright, I just looked at the film for this video, and it is out of focus the entire time. But I'm not going to refilm 20 minutes of content, so you're gonna have to deal with it, and just know I'm really sorry.
I mean, can you imagine if they had a 27-year-old playing a 14-year-old? I would throw hands. Alright, hello. I've not done this in a while. Do I have an orb as a microphone? Yes. I think it's great. I think it's useful. I can also put out the legs like this for a better grip, It's great. It's really fantastic. I have no idea what I'm doing with this YouTube channel. Who knows? It could become a commentary on the literary world. We don't know. Least of all me, that's for sure. So, what I'm going to talk about today is one of my favorite books of all time. It's called Lockwood Co. In fact, it's so much one of my favorites that it is tied for my first place tier along with Harry Potter, which is an accomplishment because Harry Potter has been my favorite book series since I was 11. Congrats to Jonathan Stroud for meeting that bar. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But today, I'm not here to talk about the series and its flawlessness. I'm here to talk about, actually, how it's getting a TV show on Netflix. Roughly 7 days ago, by the time I'm filming this, Jonathan Stroud, announced on his Instagram and Tumblr and Twitter and Facebook. Does he have I don't know if he has a Facebook, but I don't have Twitter or Facebook, so I just assumed. He posted that Lockwood Co., his book series, was to become a Netflix series with the British Netflix or whatever. It's going to be produced by Joe Cornish, who you may recognize. I personally didn't, but he's the guy who made The Kid Who Would Be King, and that kind of thing. Well, Edgar Wright, Nira Park, Joe Cornish, and Rachel Pryor have made a new company called Complete Fiction, and they're teaming up with Netflix, and one of their first projects of 3 is going to be making Lockwood Co. into a TV show, and it sounds great, honestly. This has sort of been in the works for a while. Not this specifically, but there's always been talk of there being some sort of film adaptation of the Lockwood Co. series. I think it's been going on since 2014, which is when the first book was published. But more recently, before 2020, was 2017. According to Wikipedia, the film rights were acquired December 2012 by Illumination Entertainment and Universal Pictures, making this the first live-action project for the former. The film, titled Lockwood & Co., The Screaming Staircase, was to be produced by Illumination Entertainment CEO Chris Meledandri. However, in September 2017, it was announced that Big Talk Productions had optioned the rights to Lockwood & Co., with plans to adapt it into a television series. But the film rights were acquired in 2012 by Illumination Entertainment, and they were planning on making a movie with it, but that never happened. And now, in 2017, which is when the talk of the TV series was going on, Big Talk Productions had taken the rights and were planning on a television series, but it never really happened. So all the news that I've seen thus far, the one that Jonathan Stroud referenced in his original Instagram and Tumblr post was this one on Variety.com, which talks about them and a few of their other projects going on. The company is based in both London and Los Angeles. and they will operate in film and television. And that's sort of their goal. And they're already working with Netflix, I said before, with 3 new series under the Complete Fiction banner. Lockwood Co. is the first that's going to be head produced by Joe Cornish. But they also have 2 others. There's one that's a sci-fi horror trilogy, The Murders of Molly Southbourne, which was written by Tade Thompson. And then also a historical fantasy series inspired by Islamic folklore. I'm almost directly quoting from the page. It's called The City of Brass. The person who wrote that was S.A. Chakraborty. I'm very sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. So those are the other 2 things they're working on. But first and foremost is Lockwood & Co., which is why you're here. Lockwood & Co., for people who don't know, is a really, really well-written series. There's 5 books. It follows a modern-day London. Although we can talk about timing in a second, like time setting stuff. It's set in London, and it's about, there is something called The Problem with a capital P, where ghosts and spirits are coming back and haunting places. And if ghosts touch you, you get a ghost touch, which means you die, which is unfortunate. But the weird thing is only children and teenagers can see and sense ghosts. So there are several senses. There's like sight, there's hearing, there's touch, there's that kind of thing where you can figure out these ghosts. But the problem with only children being able to see it is that children have to fight them. And ghosts are immune to things like salt and lavender and iron, and that kind of thing. But the other thing is that all the big companies in charge of ghost hunting are run by adults. And so they have teams of children manned by adults, and the adults are like, go in there and find the ghost, and then the kids do. But, this causes a lot of casualties. People die. Children die. And it sort of sucks. And so the story follows our main character, Lucy Carlyle, who grew up in northern Britain, who was originally part of one of the big companies of ghost hunting. She worked for them when she was 9, and she eventually grew bored with it. There was an accident. She was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So she went to London to hopefully try to find a bigger company where she could earn more money and also get away from her family because she didn't like her mom a whole lot. And she did. She goes to London and she goes into interview after interview after interview, and they're all like, we're good. We have enough kids. And so she has to keep going, and she eventually finds an article in a newspaper that's like, we need someone. Come to us and work with us, please. And she's like, oh gosh, if I don't get this, I'm moving back, and I will deal with my mother, and I will continue working for that agency, even though she really, really, really doesn't want to. So she goes in for the interview, and she finds that this company called Lockwood Co. is run completely by children. Anthony Lockwood, is the owner of the company. He is 15, and he has another partner named George Cubbins, who is also 15, I'm pretty sure. Lucy is also 14, just so you know. And he's immediately like, yes, we want you. And so then she's hired, and it just follows them in their adventures in ghost hunting. Eventually we find out a lot of things about Lucy. Her power's a little more special than the other ones. And there's, different assortments of ghosts, because they're trying to understand it from a scientific point. And so that's sort of how the story goes. They're trying to figure out the problem, but, in the meantime, they're just doing normal, mundane ghost hunting. So it sort of follows them with their troubles with being run by children and slowly gaining more notoriety, and the big companies sort of wanting to buy them out, and the politics of that, because this is a new problem for the world. It started almost 50 years ago. I was going to talk about the time and period instead, the time period. Jonathan Stroud, the author, said that it's a modern day story, so it's happening now, But because the ghost haunting started 50 years ago, technology is a little bit behind. So there's not like computers or phones or something. It's very interesting. It's almost Lemony Snicket-like. It's like the series of unfortunate events where it's very obscure with its time period and that kind of thing. And it's very interesting. It's very well written. It's phenomenal. And it juggles so many different subjects, with them being kids, with, the little mundane adventures they have to go on, the big problem, the problems that they start to face with the big corporations, and that kind of thing. And I'm so excited for it to be translated to film, because I think it's a great TV show to do that. But there are going to be some problems going from a book to a TV show. There are always problems with going from books to movies too, and I can talk about that. But I think there's a whole nother difficulty with taking a book and putting it into TV show format. One of those problems is a very good example of the struggles with turning a book into a movie is Harry Potter. I will probably use Harry Potter as an example in a lot of videos, but it's a very good example. Harry Potter is a very long series. It's 7 books. A lot of them are really large, going on 700, almost 800 pages. So when you translate that into a movie, like at most 2.5-hour movie, you have to drop certain details in certain scenes. It explains why, in the Harry Potter movies, Peeves doesn't exist. And there are all sorts of things that they had to drop or just visually allude to and change. The other problem is that taking a book, which is written storytelling, and putting it into a movie, which is visual storytelling. That's a juggling act. You have to show symbolism in other ways. One of the biggest, most useful examples of this that I can think of is Hermione's Yule Ball dress. In the books, Hermione is not very good looking. She has very big teeth, very bushy hair, she has freckles, and she's not necessarily the most attractive character. That's part of her look, is not being extremely attractive. And so in the book, the Yule Ball demonstrates a purpose of her change of character. She comes out and she's wearing a dress that is the color periwinkle. She comes out, her hair's all sleeked back. She recently had a spell cast on her that made her teeth so big, so she had to go to the nurse's office, but it's not the nurse's office. You know what I'm saying? And she allowed Madame Pomfrey to make her teeth slightly smaller, so her teeth are no longer buck-toothed. And she looks very nice. She looks very pretty. She looks feminine, which is something Ron, as demonstrated both in the book and movies, forgets. He's like,
"Wait, Hermione, we're a girl."
And she's like,
"Oh, well spotted."
It's that kind of thing. It's demonstrating to both Harry and Ron. It's a more drastic change, going from the Hermione we know or knew to a very feminine, very beautiful Hermione, and it's a change that was very stark contrastly. In the movies, and they couldn't have known this, Emma Watson is very pretty. She's gorgeous, and they did a pretty good job in the first movie when she was little, and they had her hair all bushed up, and actually in one of the scenes I know she was wearing false teeth, but she didn't do that for the whole film, and I don't think they did it for the rest of them. But she's really pretty. She isn't necessarily the book Hermione, at least she doesn't look like it. And so they had to figure out how to tell visually that they were trying to make her look more feminine. And the way they decided to do this was they made her dress pink. A lot of fans were mad about this. I was too originally, until I saw a video about 3 weeks ago that explained why that kind of change had to be made. They had to make her look more feminine, and whether you like it or not, pink is associated with femininity. And so they put her in pink, and they put her hair up, and they put her in frills so that she looked very feminine, because in order to get the stark contrast, they had to make her look more feminine. That was the goal. And so that's something in movies that has to be translated. The thing about Lockwood Co. is that I think it's going to translate pretty well. There are lots of details that you would only pick up reading, but there's a lot of details that will translate really well to movies, and I'm very excited for that. There's an underlying subplot in the book that Lucy is too oblivious to anything except her career, and Lockwood has a crush on her. And that in the book is very easily subplotted. Because the story is told through Lucy's eyes, she's oblivious. We don't get all the big details of Lockwood being like, I love you, and it's that kind of thing. The thing about visual storytelling is that that's going to look more prominent. Whether they play it up or not, which we don't know, that's going to be a creative decision in the process. But whether or not they're going to play up the romance, it's going to look played up if you've read the books, because Lucy is an oblivious character and Anthony is normally flirtatious. Well, his flirtatious nature will be more obvious because it's visual instead of underlying written. And because of that, it's going to look different. It's going to feel different. There's going to be a different feel between the TV and the book. And that's to be expected, you know? But the other thing I'm interested in knowing, because the only thing we basically know right now is that it's being made and who's in charge of it. We don't even know cast or anything. So I'm interested to see whether or not they're going to stick to the normal ages, if they are going to get a 14-year-old actress to play Lucy and 15-year-old actors to play George and Lockwood, that kind of thing. Because age is a very integral point of this story, so I'm interested to see how they're going to do that. Maybe they'll make them slightly older. Maybe the actress for Lucy will be like 17 or something. We can't know. The only thing I'm really hoping is they don't pull a Riverdale and have 27-year-olds play 14-year-olds. I can't stress how much I don't want that, because age is a very integral point of this story, because only children can see the ghosts, and that's sort of the point. The other thing I'm interested to see is Lucy is described not as particularly beautiful, but not like ugly. She's just like, prettiness isn't my profession or something along those lines. And there's a part in the second book, a new character comes in. Her name is Holly Monroe, or Holly Monroe, or not, I'll put that somewhere around my face. Holly Monroe. She is described as very gorgeous. She's very pretty. She's sort of the stake in Lucy's brain that's like, shoot. It's this contrast between Lucy realizing that she likes Lockwood, and that she's worried she isn't like enough. It's very, very subplot. It's very, very subtle. But Holly is there to create a bit of struggle in Lucy's brain between her relationship and Lockwood's, and the rest of the company, of course. I'm interested to see if we're going to see a Hermione-type moment. If they get an actress to play Lucy who is more beautiful than she is described in the books, which isn't a bad thing. They're going to have to figure out a way to either make Holly look more feminine and beautiful or downplay Lucy's femininity. And that's going to be something that'll be interesting within the process. And just that kind of thing. The other problem that they're going to run into making it into a TV show is that they're going to have to figure out how to make package episodes. So if they go theoretically chapter by chapter within the seasons, they're going to run into problems where they're going to have to either create interesting subplots to tie up at the end of the episode, or they're going to run the risk of creating boring episodes. So the difference between, say, if Lockwood Co. was being made into a movie, is that they would probably have to subtract details. With the thing of the TV show, they're probably going to have to add some details, and I'm very interested to see how they do that. I know Jonathan Stroud is going to be a creative voice within the process, so I'm interested to see if he will write other subplots to help them along, or that kind of thing, because they are going to have to add something into this TV show to make every episode interesting, and that's that's going to be a struggle, and I anticipate that there will be new things added into the TV show that weren't in the books, or they're going to have to play up certain plot points and that kind of thing, which could be really fun. They could have new interesting ghost hunting scenes that, weren't written into the books, because you can't tell every single little thing that happens when you're focusing on the bigger image. So we might see really fun new canon details, which will be really fun. But I'm very interested to see how that's going to work, how much of a say Jonathan Stroud is going to have in this process. And I'm really, 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 really excited. There's a lot that we don't know yet. We don't know cast. We don't know if there will be open auditions. Jonathan Stroud, please tell me if there are going to be open auditions. I know I'm not British. I can do an accent. Contact me. And we don't know anything about how old they're going for. We don't know about where things are going to be filmed necessarily. There's just a lot we don't know. And trust me to update you, I have several Google alerts going just around this subject. And I'm very excited for this to happen. And I really hope my microphone hasn't turned off. It hasn't. We're okay. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I'm really, 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 really excited for this. Let me know in the comments if there's other details that maybe I've missed, things that you're interested in between the visual storytelling and written storytelling, that kind of thing. And just, just let me know how I'm doing. Should I keep doing videos like this? I'm down. Honestly, this was fun. This was just me talking at the camera, and I can do that. I'm pretty good at that, I would say. Yeah, so bye.